Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 7th, 2025 meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. If we could please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. Meg, if you would, please call the roll.
All right. Mr. Agnesi and Mr. Allen are excused. Mr. Anderson,
Good evening. Happy New Year. I'm present.
Mr. Hirsch,
Present.
Mr. Collegian,
Present.
Mr. Macchio. He's not here, sorry. Mr. Mortimer,
Present.
Mr. Sadi,
Present.
Mr. Zacharidis,
Present.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm also present. First order of business is 0 River Street. Approval.
Make an announcement that is
Off.
yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Good. Trying to get our things to work here.
I was just informed that the item 1481 New Haven Avenue will not be heard tonight. It has been postponed and will be advised as to the date if it comes back. So the first order of business is 0 River Street approval pursuant to CGS Section 8-24 to allow an easement in favor of Metro TOD LLC for electric vehicle charging stations on map 54, block 322, parcel 4A, of which the city of Milford is the owner. Is the applicant here?
Mr. Chair, in light of no one else from the city here, I can speak to those items, the 824s, if you'd like.
David, please repeat that.
Sure. In light of the fact that there's no other representative from the city here to discuss those items, I could probably fill you in on them if you would like.
Would you be able to answer questions regarding any payment terms on the easement?
I believe there are no payment terms for the electrical charging stations because they were originally to be located within the municipal parking garage, and the fire department has a local fire code and I believe an ordinance passed by the Board of Aldermen which now prohibits electrical vehicle charging stations to be within the garage. So the developer wants to locate them on other land that the city has, which is the parking lot right up Railroad Avenue.
Right. Don't they have some surface parking on the site?
Yes, but that's not necessarily, it's not public. It's for the building. So it's not public like the parking garage is supposed to be public.
Actually, when we approved it, there was no designation of what was for the public and what was not.
You're correct, but again, that project has a designated public parking garage in it. So,
Well, it's public, and the people that live there and use the stores will also be able to use it. So anybody can use it, like all the parking spaces on the whole site, anyone can use.
well,
That's what we approved.
we approved a public parking garage. However that's managed, it gets handed over to the city to manage. So if the city wants to have parking meters in there or use it for however the city wants to use it, they can do that because that's the agreement we have for that public parking garage. So that's why the control of those charging stations would be, on public land in a lot that we also control.
Are the charges free, or are they paid for? Like by whoever charges their vehicle at those stations? Is it free or is there a fee?
That I don't know.
Okay, I think we should postpone this till
Okay.
we have somebody that can answer some questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Second order of business is 0 Northmore Road approval pursuant to CGS Section 8-24 for acceptance by the City of Milford for donated property on map 39, block 613, parcel 21, of which Milford Northmore LLC is the owner. I don't see anybody representing the city here, so I guess it's up to you.
Maybe I'll do a little better this time, we'll find out. There's a piece of property, the owners want to donate it to the city. It's been reviewed by our open space manager, and I believe that in the file there is a correspondence to that effect. So the city would like to acquire it. It's a donation. It's not costing the city anything.
Right, and do you know if there's any overdue taxes on it now that will be waived?
Let me look. Hold on. Okay, I don't see that in the letter from the open space. And let me look here. Let me look. It does abut city land, that's all I can tell you, but it doesn't, there's no mention of whether or not they owe any back taxes.
David, if I could ask you a question.
Yep.
Do we have a person who reviews donations to see if they're acceptable? And somebody's looked at that?
Yes.
So that's the guy that would tell us if this was contaminated, for example?
Yes, the letter that's up there is from the attorney who represents the property owner, and he represents that he had discussions with the city attorney's office, and then our open space coordinator also, looked at the property, and again, it abuts some city property, so the thinking was, to donate it. Whether or not it has back taxes, whether or not it's at all actually developable, I'm going to guess probably not, which is why they're donating it.
But as far as contamination goes, someone would look at that.
I would assume that the city would be, yes.
Any questions for David on this? Do we want to have those two questions answered, whether or not we've reviewed whether it's contaminated, and number one, and number two, whether there's any back taxes before we act on it?
Mr. Quich, I would like to have answers to both those questions, please.
Okay, let's get answers to those and put it on for next meeting.
Very good.
Thank you. Again, 1481 is not going to be heard tonight, so the next order of business is 132-140 Monroe Street, Zone R75, petition of Thomas Lynch Esquire for a minor amendment to a special permit to add 2 dwelling units to an existing 833 development at map 20, block 259, parcel 4B, of which Blue Ceiling Properties LLC is the owner. Applicant has the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, first of all, Happy New Year. Just for the record, Thomas Lynch, my office is located here in Milford at 63 Cherry Street, and I'm here tonight with my client Buddy Field, who the board I think is well familiar with Buddy and the work that he's done around town. His company, Blue Ceiling Properties LLC, is the owner of the property, 132-140 Monroe Street, and as it was read in the call of the application, this is a minor amendment to an existing special permit that was approved by the board in 2016, actually November of 2016. I appeared before the board making a presentation for the plans that resulted in the complex that's there on the property now. There's 3 buildings with 3 units. It's a 9-unit development that was developed under the guidelines of Connecticut General Statute 830G. And at the time, there was a portion of the property at the easterly end that was left for future development, and that's why we're here tonight. Buddy is now wishing to move forward with the additional building that's shown on the plans that were submitted to you. The building will be identical to the other three that were built, except there'll only be 2 units, not 3 units, so that the total units on site now will be 11 units. When the plan was originally approved, there were 3 set-aside units, again, under the guidelines of 830G. There were 3 set-aside units, 2 units to be rented to tenants earning, having income at 60% of the state median income, and 1 unit with tenants that earn 80% of the state median income. Now, with this additional building, there will be 1 additional affordable unit, and under, again, the formula of the statute, there will now be 2 units each at 60 and 80%. So the 1 additional affordable unit will be rented to a tenant whose income is, or family whose income is at 80% of the statewide median. Based on the 2024 numbers, for these 2-bedroom units, a rental for a tenant whose income is at 60% of the state median would be limited to $1,464 a month, and the rent to someone who, or a family who's earning at 80% of the state family median income, that rent would be $1,964 a month. The plans, as you can see from your distribution, they were reviewed by all the city departments. The city engineer reviewed them. He had no engineering comments. He made a notation about the driveway aprons being adjacent to each other, and he said that's subject to review by the police department and the public works director. So that was reviewed by Officer Morrow of the Milford Police Department. His memo is in your file, where he found that there was no public safety impact whatsoever with these 2 additional units. At that stretch of Monroe Street, which is basically located perpendicular to Naugatuck in the Walnut Beach section of Milford, at that particular stretch, the sight lines are over 400 feet going either way. So he found that the sight lines were perfect, and this additional building would have absolutely no impact on traffic in the area. There was no involvement of the Inland Wetlands Agency. There's a memo from Mary Rose Palumbo to that effect. The plans were also reviewed by the fire department, and I appeared before the Sewer Commission in November representing Buddy for the additional hookups for the sewer and for the 2 units in their sewer capacity, and that application was approved in November. So that's it. It's a basic, straightforward application. We're just adding 1 additional building to the site. David's reviewed it. You have his memo, and if there's any questions, happy to entertain them.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Attorney Lynch? Mr. Sadi.
Happy New Year to you, Attorney Lynch, also.
Thank you, Bob.
For the record, we're adding more units, but the bottom line is you have, if my math is correct, we have 11 total units, of which 4 of those units are affordable housing. Is that accurate?
That's correct, yep.
Percentage-wise, did you give us a percentage of how much? Percentages, probably 35 to 40%.
I was pretty good with my grade school math. I think that's probably close to 38%.
We take your word for it.
Okay. Yep.
The question I have is, looking, we have the map up in front of us. Is there 2 buildings already there, and these?
There's 2 buildings there, right? Each of those buildings have 3 units.
Yeah, but in this map we're looking at right now.
Yep.
Well, David took it off. There was one that had 2 colored units. That's going to be 1.
Yep.
Okay. I thank you for the questions, and I'll wait if we get a motion to make comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? David, would you please explain to the board how an amendment to an 830G relates to an original application, 830G, and what we're bound to approve? Is it the same exactly? Is there some difference?
It's the same exactly, assuming that there is no detrimental impacts to the new development. Yeah, and when I say detrimental impacts, the kinds of things where if the board was looking to deny an application, you'd have that very high bar to reach for the need of affordable housing is outweighed by whatever the public impact is. So it's the same kind of application, whether this is brand new for the whole complex or an amendment to it, in this case adding 2 units.
Thank you for the clarification. Any further questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd hear, I'm sorry, Eton.
I just want to be clear, David. So this amended to the special permit, this is an amendment pursuant to 830G?
This application is an 830G application, correct?
Okay, thank you.
I was going to stress that in my opening statement to be a minor amendment.
Gotcha, understood. Any further questions or comments? Okay, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that would like to come up to the podium and speak, get in line. Seeing none, we will close the public comment, and without objection, we will close the public hearing. Without objection, it's closed, and without further questions from the board, I would hear a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is regarding 132, 140 Monroe Street. I move to approve as presented the petition of Thomas Lynch Esquire for a minor amendment to a special permit to add dwelling units to an existing 830G development at map 20, block 259, parcel 4B, of which Blue Ceiling Properties LLC is the owner.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Sadi?
Thank you very much. Again, thank you very much coming in tonight, Attorney Lynch, but, the 38% is a somewhat high threshold we haven't seen often, so I'm in favor of this particular motion because your developer has determined to give us more than the statutory requirement, although I think probably at the time that it was the smaller units, it was probably close to that threshold, but I think we have to commend the developers that are wishing to make more affordable housing in Milford, and I thank you very much for that, and I'm going to be voting in favor of this.
All right, thank you.
Any further comments? Seeing none, Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Mr. Anderson,
With the motion.
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion?
Mr. Zacharias,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm also with the motion. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Next order of business is proposed regulation amendment 24-6 petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board Regulation Subcommittee for a change to Milford zoning regulations, Article 6, Section 636, restoration to bring the regulation into compliance with state statutes. David, if you would just emphasize or describe that where we were out of compliance.
Okay, just give me 2 seconds here. Yeah, our regulations as they currently exist limited the amount of time to rebuild and the amount of the threshold for rebuilding, where the statutes say, hey, your property's been destroyed by fire or an act of God, you have a right to rebuild it as it was. So we're just falling in line with the state statutes.
Do you think we can bundle all these together with one discussion and one motion? or do you feel we should have an individual discussion and motion for each?
That's up to you. You can bundle them if you would like, and I can only say that because there's no one here in the audience who, literally no one here in the audience who would be coming to speak for any of these particular items, whatever discussion you have. You can have a general discussion, and then I would just vote individually on each of the
Okay,
items.
if you would then just go down the list and give us just a brief
Sure.
overview of each.
Yep. So that was proposed regulation amendment 24-6. Proposed regulation 24-7 has to do with bringing our regulations into compliance by removing, we have language in there for when variances expire. They don't. So we need to fix that. The next regulation amendment is 24-8, Article 9, Section 9.4, revocation and rehearing to bring regulations into compliance with state statutes. I believe we have language in there that says the board can revoke something and bring it back, and you can't. Once you approve something, it's approved. And specifically, let me look here. Yeah, this section is for the Zoning Board of Appeals. So, yeah, we have language that says, oh, yeah, we've given you a variance, something has happened, and we want to revoke it. Well, no, you can't. Simple as that. And then the last one is Regulation Amendment 24-9, which, let's take a look here, brings us into compliance with, this is our, yes, this is our minimum unit size regulation changes, which are the biggest of the changes in that they're scattered throughout the book here. So let me go over here. Yeah, we have, and this actually came up a couple of years ago when the legislature redid the regulations for ADUs and for housing. They did a whole bunch of different things, and among the things they did was they eliminated minimum unit sizes, which we happen to have in our regulations, and basically it comes down to whatever the building code allows. So we're just fixing our regulations so they are compliant with state statutes.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions on specific elements? Yes.
So to be clear, in each of these instances, we're compelled to fall in line with the state statutes. We really have no other choice. If there's a conflict, we have to defer to the state.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to David Sulkus, if you could just go to the SCD 3.9A 4.2. That's on page 5 of the discussion regarding these changes.
Can you say that again? Go to
Page 5.
page 5.
And it's SCD, it's in the middle of the page, SCD 39A42.
Where am I looking for?
Page 5
Page 5 of what?
of the document that you provided to us, the proposed regulation change.
Oh, so does it have, are you talking about which regulation number, which document? Is it 24.6, 24.7, 24.8?
The last one we're on 24.8.
24.8 or 24.9? That 24.9 was the last one.
This is the long one about taking out the numbers, square feet.
Okay, so that's 24.9.
24.9.
Okay.
But on page 5,
Okay, hold on. Okay. Okay, page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay.
so it has SCD 3.9A42. And it says design, phasing and building requirements, and apparently we had in our regulations, no more than 750 dwelling units should be located on that parcel, that type of parcel.
Yes.
And is that because the state statute does not allow us to have 750 dwelling units on a...
You can't limit the number of units. You can have, I gotta try to remember this now. No more than 750 units shall be located on an SCD 50 parcel as it exists. This also, I believe, this comes from the changes that the board made for the mall. The mall, when we allowed them to create, when this was created, the SCD A was created for the development of the mall. We had a limit of 750 dwelling units, and it was parcel specific, which we can't do. That was the reason that that's coming out. In the end, you still have to approve whatever project they end up bringing before you, but you can't have a cap in that the way that we have it listed.
I'm just trying to clarify, this is not based on state statutes, based on the regulation change we made some time ago?
No, this is based on the state statute, and this just happens to be the regulation change that we made a couple of years ago.
And the question is there anything other than, when it says design, phasing, and building requirements, or any other subsections that are affecting, or should we just take out the whole 39A42?
That's a good question. It does, it's 39A42, design, phasing, building. So in a way now that becomes a heading because you do have building requirements that are down under 3.943. We can look at that if there's any question as to whether or not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any further questions? You done?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sulkis, I have a question regarding Amendment 24-6. No, that's not the one. That's, yeah, the 6 has to do with restoration in terms of fire, acts of God, explosion, etc. Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the text as it's currently written, and then it's destroyed, but when the restoration language is taken out, it's taken about how the structure itself is being destroyed. So why can't we just put back in the language which has been destroyed or damaged by fire, explosion, act of God, or by another casualty? Because otherwise, what are we restoring here? There's no specific reference in the regulation to what the act that occurred to require the need for restoration.
The simple answer is because we're mirroring the language that's in the state statute. So there are instances where something is altered that is not an act of God, and this has come up, I believe, in some case law where someone decided just to take their house down.
Say that again?
Someone decided, oh, I'm just going to take the house down. I'm just going to, I'm going to do this and that. They basically, I don't want to use the word destroyed, but removed it. And then you say it's a pre-existing non-conforming in terms of location. Well, even though they did it themselves, they have a right to put it back the way that it was.
But my question is this, and look, I didn't read the state statute, so I can't comment on it, but I always, through my years on Zoning Board of Appeals and here on the Planning and Zoning Board, I always was under the impression we didn't want to perpetuate non-conforming uses and non-conforming projects. And so what we're doing with this change is we're perpetuating nonconformity into perpetuity.
Which, for
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're the city, and we're the boards have some power, and that is that to not allow expansions. You know, you have something that's there, you don't want to make it any worse than it already is, or any more non-conforming than it already is. But at the same time, the state legislature has said, well, you know, you've got this structure, or this property that's non-conforming, and it's there forever if the property owner wants to keep it there forever. You know, that's why we're changing this.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Yeah, because we want to see nonconformities go away.
That's why we have merger by operation of law.
But at the same time, what we do here is also it's a creature of the statutes. So the legislature is telling us that it's okay, that it's pre-existing non-conforming and it burned down to the ground, and you want to build it back, exactly as it was. That's okay for someone to do.
So for example, I just want to use by example just so I understand this. So say somebody has a parcel that is a non-conforming parcel. The building is a non-conforming lot, on a non-conforming lot, and that building is destroyed. The homeowner can restore that same property on the same footprint?
Yes.
Okay, because it says same non-conforming building or structure. We're talking the same footprint here, just to be precise.
Right.
Okay, so they can't increase the non-conformity. They can decrease it, of course.
Correct.
Which would be nice.
Correct.
But they can't increase. They have to act within the same footprint.
Correct. You can have what you had before. You can't make it any bigger.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Zadi.
Thank you. I appreciate Commissioner Hirsch's questions, but it prompted a thought in my mind, David. Let's suppose that the piece of property has a building that's 60 by 100 feet. That's the length and the width. And the height that in the particular district is, say, 35 feet, but that building was only 1 story. Could they then not increase the length and width, but go higher than the original building was that was destroyed, damaged, or otherwise being restored?
You can take advantage of whatever regulation is currently existing. So if the location is pre-existing non-conforming in terms of the sidelines, but the regulation allows you to go up to 35 feet and you only have 1 story, you can take advantage of that. Because you're not increasing any non-conformity, because you're talking about doing something that conforms to the regulations today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Then I would, without objection, we'll close the public hearing. And I would hear a motion for 24-6.
Mr. Quish, may I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
How can we not approve this? If this is in conformity with a state statute and we're bound by state statute, how can logically any of us vote against these amendments?
Well, that's a good point, but I think that would just create a legal issue that...
Maybe John Burcham can untangle that legal morass, but...
I mean, I don't think they're prohibited from voting against it. I think if we had a majority vote against it, we would be in conflict with the state laws, which might not be the smartest move to make. Seeing no more questions, I would hear a motion on 24-6.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve as presented the petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board Regulations Subcommittee for a change to Milford Zoning Regulations Article 6, Section 6.3.6 restoration to bring the regulation into compliance with state statutes, The effective date of the change will be January 31, 2025.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? If you would please call the roll, Meg.
Mr. Anderson,
With the motion?
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Clegion,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
Chairman Quinn.
I'm with this motion. Let's see if we can get a motion for 24/7.
All right. I move to approve as presented the petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board Regulations Subcommittee for a change to Milford Zoning Regulations, Article 9, Section 9.2.2.4, variance expiration, to bring the regulation into compliance with state statutes. The effective date will be January 31st, 2025.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hirsch. Any discussion on the motion? Meg, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Anderson,
With the motion?
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Clegion,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quinn.
I am with the motion. I would hear a motion for 24/8.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve as presented the petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board Regulations Subcommittee for a change to Milford Zoning Regulations, Article 9, Section 9.4, revocation rehearing to bring the regulation into compliance with state statutes. The effective date will be January 31, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Meg, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Anderson,
With the motion?
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Clegion,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quinn.
With the motion. I would hear a motion for 24/9. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I'll move to approve as presented the petition of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board Regulations Subcommittee for a change to Milford zoning regulations in all applicable sections to bring the regulations into compliance with Connecticut General Statutes 8-2. The effective date will be January 31, 2025. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Without any discussion?
I just want to be clear. When it says the code, are you talking about the Connecticut Building Code?
That would be correct.
It says, for example, the CDD1 says the minimum unit size shall not be less than the minimum permitted by the building code. By that, we're referring to the Connecticut Building Code.
Correct.
Thank you.
Very good.
Or the codes that are used by the state of Connecticut, because there are different ones, but just letting you. Yeah.
Excuse me. Any further questions or discussion? Meg, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Anderson,
With the motion?
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Clegion,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharides,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quinn.
I am with the motion. Okay, they all passed. Old business, none. Liaison report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're meeting on Thursday of this week. We're proposing possibly new officers. I'm an officer's secretary, so I am keep my name in the running, and we'll let you know the next meeting how we fared. Thank you.
Good luck. Subcommittee reports. David, did we choose a date?
I don't believe that we did. Well, we talked about having something this month, but I don't believe we chose a specific date.
Okay, we'll discuss that tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll inform the board on what date works.
Okay.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes. The motion
Move to approve.
without objection. The Motion is approved. Minutes are approved. Chair's report, none. Staff report.
I have one.
Yay.
Get your calendars out and pencil in March 22nd, which is a Saturday. The Connecticut Bar Association is doing their biannual land use and law update. It's a whole day. It used to be you had to go to Wesleyan to do it and spend the whole day there. Now it's going to be online, so you can do it from the comfort of your home on a Saturday. And it will get you, I believe, all of your educational requirements.
Great. If you would send that out, everybody, with a calendar invite, so
Yep.
we have this easy button just to
Yep.
put it in our individual calendars.
You got it.
Thank you.
And, if we find out ahead of time, when you commit to us ahead of time, we'll be able to, pay for it ahead of time, or else you'll have to submit paperwork for reimbursement.
Got it.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Sulkus. We've been through this cycle a couple of times, but it appears that the only people that may not have met their education requirements were the 2 new board members or 3 new board members that were elected. Is that your assessment? Because we've gone through this at least more than once.
Yeah, I'd have to go to see, because we do keep track of the education that board members get when they inform us that they did it. I know at least one of the new board members is probably on top of it and has probably all of their credits. But, and I'd have to refresh myself with the statute, but, people got sort of a pass early on when the statute was created. So I don't know that that pass still exists for any of the board members after a certain amount of time. They want you to go back and keep refreshing your skills.
If you let us know that, that'd be helpful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. And so without objection, we're adjourned.